Well, this man is considered a top religious authority for Muslims around the world. His rulings call for the killing of American troops in Iraq and the destruction of Israel.
And that's not all. What's even more frightening is that his influence reaches far beyond the Middle East. Eric Stakelbeck takes a closer look at the Muslim Brotherhood's spiritual leader.
Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi has been called the most influential Islamist cleric in the world. Over the past year, he's used his clout to promote the so-called Arab Spring. For Qaradawi, the rise of radical Islamic governments across the Middle East and North Africa means a giant step towards his vision of a united Islamic superstate, or caliphate, governed by Sharia law. The 86-year-old Egyptian native pushes this agenda through his website, Islam Online, and his top-rated Al Jazeera program called Sharia and Life, which reaches tens of millions of Muslims each week.
Sheikh Yusuf al-Qaradawi is more just an ideologue. He is also a strategist.
Walid Faris is author of The Coming Revolution. He says Qaradawi sets the tone for the Muslim Brotherhood worldwide.
We're talking about a Lenin here, a jihadi Lenin who controls the flow of the ideology, but also give the nod with regard to the general strategic direction. He's the mentor today of the Muslim Brotherhood, and the MBs are about to take over in at least 3 to 4 countries in the Middle East.
Just 1 week after protests forced Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak out of power, Qaradawi returned to his homeland following a 30-year exile. He led Friday prayers for a crowd of over 1 million in Cairo's Tahrir Square, where he called for Muslims to reconquer Jerusalem. Faris compared it to the Ayatollah Khomeini's return to Iran in 1979.
Qaradawi came to Egypt to change the Arab Spring into a caliphate spring.
Qaradawi's fatwas, or religious rulings, have endorsed the killing of U.S. troops in Iraq and suicide bombings against Israeli civilians. He's shown a special animosity towards Jews, and not just those living in Israel. During a 2009 sermon, he raged, "O Allah, take this oppressive Jewish Zionist band of people. Do not spare a single one of them. Count their numbers and kill them, down to the very last one."
Genocide. That's the main message, genocide.
Egyptian dissident Cynthia Farhat told CBN News that Westerners who call Qaradawi moderate ignore his words.
He went as far as saying that he wants to kill Jews with his own hands, with his own bare hands, while sitting on his wheelchair.
Yet, according to a recent report in one of India's largest daily newspapers, the Obama administration is using Qaradawi as a mediator in secret negotiations between the U.S. and the Taliban. An Obama administration official told CBN News the report is not accurate. The administration has acknowledged, however, that it is engaged in dialogue with the Muslim Brotherhood and other Islamist parties.
And Qaradawi has ambitions beyond the Middle East. He says Islam will conquer America and Europe as well, not overnight, but gradually through immigration and conversion. Pat.
Eric, is the White House blind, deaf, dumb, deaf, blind? What is it? They're in contact with this man and some of his people.
You know, Pat, they deny it. Now, they denied this report. First of all, I wish I was a fly on the wall in the Middle East meetings at this White House to get inside their heads and see what exactly they're thinking. They deny this report, Pat, but 2 things here. Number one, it appeared in one of the largest daily newspapers in India, a very credible source, The Hindu. They use Indian intelligence sources many times. It's a very detailed report saying, yes, the U.S. is using Qaradawi as a mediator in talks with the Taliban. Number 2, Pat, another interesting point here. The Taliban is apparently opening an office in Qatar. Now, Qaradawi lives in Qatar. Very interesting. And the third thing, Pat, is look, the Obama administration is engaged in dialogue with top Muslim Brotherhood leaders throughout the Middle East and North Africa. So if you're in their shoes, why not talk to Qaradawi? After all, he is the spiritual leader of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Well, you know, and I know, that the Muslim Brotherhood is intent on establishing the caliphate, putting Sharia law into effect, and, of course, obliterating Israel. But yet the administration, I think Hillary Clinton and the president and others, have indicated they're a group of moderates. Where do they get off with that?
Well, Pat, great point. As we speak, the number 2 man, the number 2 highest ranking official at the State Department is in Egypt, and yesterday he met with leaders of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, Pat, we have Muslim Brotherhood documents. You and I have discussed this on CBN News. We have Brotherhood documents that our own FBI uncovered just 10 minutes from where I'm sitting right now outside of Washington, D.C. In these documents, it says clearly that the Muslim Brotherhood's goal is world Islamic domination and that they want to destroy the United States from within. This is their own words, Pat. Now, our government officials have these documents in their possessions. They know the Brotherhood's game. I don't know, Pat, call me old-fashioned, but when someone says they want to destroy my civilization, I take them at their word. Apparently, this White House does not.
Is it stupidity, or is somebody deliberately trying to throw the game?
It's tough to say, Pat. Honestly, this administration has been so pro-Islamist, so anti-Israel, that you wonder what the thought process is. One thing I've heard is that they believe that the Brotherhood has changed its spots, that they're now moderate, that they no longer support violence, and they actually believe they can use the Brotherhood, who are the so-called moderate Islamist, Pat, as a counterweight to al-Qaeda and the really bad guys. But if you look at the Muslim Brotherhood's words, they're still calling for the destruction of Israel. They're talking about breaking the peace treaty with Israel. They will never have dialogue with Israel. And they're supporting the reestablishment. Top Muslim Brotherhood leaders, Pat. In fact, the Muslim Brotherhood's very top guy, not only al-Qaradawi, who we're talking about, but another top Brotherhood leader just last week said, yes, we are very close to the return of our ultimate goal, the Islamic Caliphate. The Islamic superstate would stretch all across North Africa and Middle East, a union of all Islamic countries, militarily, politically, economically, to take on Israel and the West. They believe the wind is at their backs, Pat, and they're very close. And this White House, frankly, is not helping much.
Eric, I appreciate the work you're doing. You're bringing stories that you just don't hear on the news. You're hearing it on our news, ladies and gentlemen, because we bring it to you. He wrote a book that's been very popular called The Terrorist Next Door. It's still available on Amazon and places where books are sold. It's Eric's book. Some shocking things, but factual. He gets his facts right. Well, you can get the latest updates on terrorism by going to Eric's blog, Stacklebeck on Terror, and cbnnews.com.